Good morning, students. Today we are going to start our next topic of how do organisms reproduce, and the name of the topic is fertilization. What is fertilization? Fertilization is a process by which fusion of male and female gamete take place. Means male gamete from male and female from female body will fuse to form zygote, and the process by which fusion take place is known as fertilization. And as we know, gametes are haploid in nature, means male and female gametes are haploid. When they fuse to form zygote, then the zygote will be in diploid state, and this zygote further develop into embryo inside the mother body, and zygote undergo rapid division to form embryo. Means embryo is multicellular structure, and after the formation of embryo, further embryo develop into a new individual. So fertilization take place in plants also, as well as in animals also, and human also. So we start with the topic fertilization in flowering plant. Before going to start the fertilization in flowering plant, we must recall about the different parts of flower. There is a male part present in flower, that is anther and filament, and female part present in flower, that is stigma, style and ovary. Stigma, style, ovary is the female part, and anther and filament is the male reproductive part. In anther, pollen grain formation take place, and in stigma, style, ovary, female gametes produce. So this male gamete is transferred on the stigma. The process is known as pollination. Yes, in the previous slide it was already covered. The transfer of pollen grain from anther to stigma is known as pollination. So after pollen grain land on stigma, what are the various changes will take place, and what is the mechanism of fertilization in flowering plant? Let's start. Just have a review that mentioned on this slide. After landing at the stigma, the pollen grain absorb moisture and germinate. Means when pollen grain land on the stigma, this pollen grain absorb the moisture present on the stigma. Then a tube like structure develop known as pollen tube. From pollen grain, a tube like structure is developed known as pollen tube, and this pollen tube will run downward towards style area. So a pollen grain develop a pollen tube which penetrate through the tissue of style and reaches the ovule. Ovule is present inside the ovary, and when pollen tube enter the ovule, then through this pollen tube, male gametes, or you can say male nuclei, are transferred inside the ovule. After fertilization, means when male nucleus or male gamete fuse with the female present inside the ovary, after fertilization zygote is formed, and this zygote will further finally develop into the embryo. Now when fertilization take place, what are the various changes that would be observed in flower? Means after the fertilization there are some specific changes that will appear. So the calyx and corolla wither means fall off, means the petals and sepal will fall off, and ovary turns into fruit. This is a very important point. Name the part of flower which help in the formation of fruit. Then you mention the answer. Ovary help in the formation of fruit, and in fruit, inside the fruit there are some seed. So which structure help in the formation of seed? Ovule leads to formation of seed, and once the seed become mature, fruit will dry up and seed dispersal or seed scattering will take place. Now what is the structure of seed? seed contain an embryo, and seed also contains some reserve food, and seed also has a protective covering known as seed coat. And this reserve food means the structure which serve as reserving the food in the seed is known as cotyledon. Cotyledon is the structure which help in reserving the food. Next point, embryo has two pointed part, means embryo has two you can say parts. The upper part is known as plumule and the lower part is known as in embryo radicle. The upper part plumule will give rise to formation of shoot, and the lower part of the seed will give rise to formation of root. I am again repeating, embryo has two pointed parts. The upper part is known as plumule and the lower pointed part is known as radicle. Plumule will give rise to formation of shoot system, and the radical portion will give rise to formation of roots. And here the cotyledon is the reserve food, so cotyledon will provide the food when embryo needs it during seed germination. When the seed germinate, then this cotyledon will provide the food for the germination. Seed germination is a process by which embryo in the seed kick start a new life. Means seed germination is a process by which embryo starts its new life for the formation of a new plant. Yes, you can see in the first figure, in the first circle, you can see insect is lying on flower. So insect help in the transfer of pollen grain. In the first circle, the process is known as pollination. In the second circle, with the pink arrow downward, you can see pollen grain land on the stigma. And in the third structure, through pollen grain, pollen tube germinate. Pollen tube start to form towards style. In the fourth structure, this pollen tube will enter into ovary-ovule structure, and further fertilization. In the fourth process, fertilization take place and it will lead to formation of outer ovary will form the fruit, and inside the ovule, the ovule will lead to formation of seed. I am again repeating this slide. In first circle, with the help of insect, pollen grains are transferred. In the second, pollen grain land on the stigma. In the third circle, pollen tube formation is there. In the fourth circle, pollen tube enter into the ovary ovule and fertilization take place. In the fourth and fifth, formation of fruit and seed take place. Yes, next, this is an important question for CBSE exam. Difference between external and internal fertilization. Fertilization may be take place in external media, in water, or inside the female body. So this is the tabular difference between external and internal fertilization. Simply we have to write the difference between external and internal. So in external fertilization, the fusion of male and female gamete will take place outside the body. And when we have to write about internal fertilization, then we simply write that the fusion of gamete occur inside the body. In external, outside the body; internal, inside the body. Second point, gametes will discharge outside the body. Means male will release the gamete outside and female also release the gamete outside. Means in water or in any external media, the gametes are released. But in internal fertilization, male gametes are mainly discharged into the female tract. Next, then where the development take place. When external fertilization take place, then the development will occur outside the body. But in internal fertilization, all the development, means the formation of zygote and embryo, will take place inside the female body. Now what are the example? First example of external fertilization is frog and fishes. Fishes also show external fertilization, but in internal fertilization, the example are human and birds and some cattle. So in humans, internal fertilization is there. So thank you. This is all about in today's topic.